Hey Brian, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. So excited that we're connecting this morning. Uh Talk a little bit about some financial planning. But maybe what we should start with is, what what we're doing here. So of course, Clarity Cast, you and I talking about some planning today. And I'm Derek DiManno, founding advisor, my longtime friend and co-advisor, Brian Villec. And welcome formally, Brian,
Thank
to the
you.
Clarity Cast again. Maybe you can give our listeners a little bit of an introduction to you.
Yeah. Coming up on my third decade in the business. Kind of scary to think about that, but I have worked in a number of aspects of financial services. I'm a certified financial planner. Most of my career, I've managed salespeople or consulted with financial advisors to help them be more productive with their clients. And over the last year, obviously, I've worked on your team here, Derek, and excited to continue to build out a process as we're looking to deliver financial planning in a different way for clients.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brian. And for anybody that's listening that doesn't know me, Derek DiManno, CFP, founding advisor here at Flagship Asset Services, not quite 3 decades. Maybe more hair than Brian, but also more gray hair. So, I mean, if you're, so there's a trade-off there, and
There
I'm not
is.
going to say which is preferable, but we've known each other for a long time, and we're excited to have you as part of the firm. But also, I'm really excited to be talking about planning
Yeah.
and investing and wealth management with you. And strangely, although we've done this together in this format before, and and talk all the time. I like a little bit nervous for some reason. I guess maybe like this whole idea of relaunching the Clarity Cast and really sharing with our listeners in this mini series to come about the planning process. Just maybe some excitement. And so
Yeah.
I thought it might be helpful to me and maybe to you. We start our team meetings with something we call the positive focus, which is really just one positive thing. And then we kind of peel back the onion on that. I thought, Brian, maybe if you're game for it, we could just share a positive focus from, I don't know, this past week, the past month.
Yeah.
Might be a way for our listeners maybe to have some insight into what makes us tick, and also maybe it'll calm my nerves and break the ice a little bit.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I can start.
Okay.
Yeah, we always fight for who starts first with
Yeah.
these positive focus in the team meeting. I would say that my positive focus for this week is uh, the flights that we just booked, my wife and I, for a trip for my 55th and her 50th in this year, 2026.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'm really excited for the planning that we're going to be doing for this trip over the summer. And it kind of ties into what we'll be talking about today because one of the things that is part of my why and my clarity statement is creating memories with the people that are most important to me and my family. And prioritizing trips and opportunities to create those memories is really important to me. So I'm really excited to start that planning process now that we've got the flights booked and we can start building out the hotels and the Airbnbs and the activities that we'll be doing along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, Brian. Thanks for sharing that. And I won't ask, just because if you come to a high level of popularity through this podcast, I won't ask where you're going because I don't want paparazzi following you and your wife around while you're trying to enjoy your birthdays.
I
So
appreciate
yeah, no problem. For me, I have a positive focus. It just happened last night, and so I had the opportunity to go with my youngest daughter to dinner after she had practice, and it was just the two of us. a little bit of a late dinner, and we sat down and we got, you know, she got a Shirley Temple. I got my club soda and lime, and we ordered some appetizers and ordered dinner. And when dinner came, she looked at me so sweetly and said, Dad, can we pray? And I thought to myself, well, that's really like something for, a young lady,
Mm-hmm.
to want to do that. And then I thought to myself as well, um, like kind of courageous, to feel comfortable that to do that in a restaurant. So just kind of a sweet moment for us. And dinner was great, and we had Italian, if you're wondering. And I had eggplant parm, which is something we don't normally cook at the house. And so
Uh-huh.
I'll have to run a couple of extra miles for all the mozzarella. So,
Nice. Well, I know that those special moments when you have some time just you and one of your children are really important. And I'm glad you got that opportunity this week.
Yeah. And so, we didn't, I wish I could tell our listeners that we planned it this way, but we didn't. So, but I do think the positive focus that we both shared, um, really is a nice bridge to what we're going to talk about today. So maybe Brian, you can kick it off, and the best way to do this might be, let me ask you, obviously you've been here and familiar with the firm prior to joining it, but really embedded now in our process, in the planning process. And so I'm interested in your thoughts on our process, maybe how you think it's different, um, and how you mentioned this kind of in your opener, and how that aligns for you with your purpose and how you find meaning in this business. And so maybe you could share that.
Sure. Yeah. What makes the process that we use different is that traditional financial planning focuses on the what and the how, um, and maybe to a fault. And we've got tons of resources in this business to help people spreadsheet out or understand the dollar aspects of their life, and get very granular with it. And our software can sanitize that to a point where we forget why we're doing the work that we're doing,
Mm,
and the important aspect of it. So um, the fact that we start with that clarity statement and start with the why and understanding what's really important to our clients, what makes them tick, and what does success look like for them in the planning
hmm
process, and it's different for every person. And our job isn't to project what is important to us on them, but to help them clarify what's important to them so that we can align that with the what and the how.
hmm
So I think that's what makes it different, and what really excites me about it, and helping people deliver impact. Whether that be in their families or in their communities, and to help them, to get to where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. It's obviously I'm close to it because it's, so that like the origin story or the genesis story, really for our listeners is that and now it's well over a decade that Simon Sinek had written his bestseller Start with Why, which I read at that time and was exposed to his TED Talk, which the book was based on, and his theory of the golden circle, um, and how he identified organizations finding meaning, and then, by using this golden circle theory and doing just what you said, instead of starting from the outside of the circle, with the what, the how, and then moving to the why, the point of significance, but instead starting. It really an interesting book for anybody that enjoys reading and hasn't read it, or even just to listen to the TED Talk. Really,
Yeah.
and then and it was influential on me for sure. And he did relay this to your personal life. But then more recently, you know, we re-engage with Simon Sinek, and I say we because Brian and I have a book club we're part of that started during COVID, and really, we owe Simon Sinek credit for that because he said that he was going to be reading his book and rewriting it for its 10-year anniversary, which was published last year. And so that's what was that started this whole book club. And just more recently, I reread, not in book club, but on my own, I reread the revision. And so it's something that has resonated with who I am. And to Brian's point, I think the idea is that maybe this is non-traditional planning, the place that we start. But I would say it's really it's the most important part is figuring out why are we doing this? Like, what really is the purpose? And getting clear on that, you know? And so, Brian, maybe you can talk a little bit about, that clarity builder process, that first real step in the planning, um, as it relates to maybe how, a client, or any listeners on here that are thinking like, okay, well, so maybe they're familiar with the book or not. Like, so how do we make the jump from, you know, um, academia in a book, right? To the point you made about financial software really allowing us to sanitize large amounts of data, what, and then backing into the how to, hey, well, let's have a conversation and start with the why and really create, a vision statement or a mission statement or what we call here the clarity statement for the planning. So maybe you can pick up the ball there and expand a little bit.
Sure. Well, when we have somebody who's a fit for the firm, where we feel that we can have a, multi-year, decade plus long relationship with them, ideally, we're looking to work with somebody as their last financial advisor, the financial advisor that they're going to have for the rest of their life. We want to make sure that we're aligning what we do with them with their purpose and what they're trying to accomplish. So in that clarity builder meeting, we're really looking to identify what priorities they have in life and what goals they'd like to accomplish, so that we can help them deliver maximum impact.
Mhm.
Like I mentioned before, for their community, their family, whatever really drives them. And that really comes to the questions that we're asking them in that first meeting, and then helping them, clarify what's important to them.
Yeah. Brian, you've said this before, and I think it's like a really powerful point is that, in that process, our clients may discover like a driving motivation that they didn't even really realize was there, or at least they've never verbalized, which I think in itself is really like powerful. I mean, the analogy that I would use about the clarity builder process, and for maybe some of our listeners, they're not going to have the total context of this, and I may potentially be dating myself when I say this, but there was a time where there was a stack of map quests on my passenger seat, right? And so we put in our location, we put in the location we were going to. MapQuest spit out, a couple pages, depending on how far the trip was, of turns, lefts and rights, and highways and roads. And that was like how we got there, right? Especially if you didn't know where you're going. And then obviously, now we have modern GPS, which is like in our mobile devices and connected into our vehicles. And I mean, holy smoke, sometimes when we're walking around a city that we don't know, we're even having it guide us like to walk to the places more
Mm-hmm.
efficiently. And the way that the Clarity Builder, I think the analogy here is that in the planning that we do with clients, we want to make sure it's fluid and dynamic. In their clarity statement, right? Their purpose statement may evolve over time, just like whether you're a Waze or an
Mm-hmm.
Apple or a Google, whatever it is, whichever one of those modern kind of GPS mapping tools you use, is all of them have that same feature where they're smart and they're trying to save you time and aggravation on your trip by recommending, alternative routes when there's, maybe a slowdown or trouble in the sense of an accident or road work or whatever. And I think, for the clarity builder, the idea is that we're we're identifying the starting point and what we believe is the goal state. We're putting words to what's driving the desire to do that planning, the really underlying. I mean, the money's not the goal. It's like what you're going to do with the money. And then along the way, like, I mean, we may get like a rerouting or that gluey bar that comes up and says we can save you 5 minutes. Like,
Uh-huh.
and then it's really kind of having the conversation about whether that makes sense,
Yeah.
for our
Well,
clients.
Derek, you do a lot of tournament travel for your daughter's sports, and I'm sure along the route, they bring something up that wasn't originally planned for, right? Like
Yeah.
stop for food or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And I love your analogy around the mapping software because you can add in that next location if there's a stop along the way.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite stop, either Chick-fil-A or Wawa, right? Only adds like 8 minutes, right? And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I think to your point, you're traveling and it's like, okay, we know where we're going and we're relatively confident we're going to get there like in our time frame. And it would be nice to stop off and refresh ourselves. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that I appreciate that insight, Brian, is that yeah, that whole add a stop feature, only enriches the analogy that, the clarity builder and the planning is working along that same type thought process where um, you know, things come up.
Sure.
And I guess what maybe, Brian, I would ask that I think could be helpful for us to explore a little bit is where you see this clarity statement, this purpose-driven planning, like coming to life for clients. I know we could probably give example after example, but maybe if you can share, one that comes top to mind and we can talk a little bit about that because I think having a context for like what does this look like in action would be maybe helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, no, I would say that I like to help people to give people permission to do the things that they're excited about. A
Mm.
lot of
Mhm.
the clients that we work with have been diligent savers all their lives, and they've gotten to a point where they have, you know, some people might argue won the game. They have the resources to do what they really want to do for themselves and their families, and um, sometimes pivoting from saving to spending is an uncomfortable choice.
Mhm.
Yeah, and giving people permission to take that trip and create those memories or benefit a charity that they want to benefit or to help their son or daughter buy a new home, whatever it is for them, because I'm not looking to project what's important to me on them, but to help them, to give them permission to do what's on their priority list, and what's part of their goal set, so they can have the maximum impact in their families and in their communities.
Yeah.
Um, so that part is, I think, really exciting to me. Is the ability to help people, give them permission, and to help them practice, moving towards implementing their priorities.
Yeah. Brian, you've well, unfortunately we've seen it for sure. But you've mentioned this, in some recent meetings that we've had in planning and this whole like, human thing that we kind of wear out our parts, this aging
Mm-hmm.
process. Where where the permission to spend can become so important, right? And so where a client has secured the wealth um to be able to be comfortable and age with dignity, and really has expressed maybe that to be their desire, right? And for the well spouse, right, to be able to continue to go on um, doing the things that keep them, um, you know, sprightly,
Sure.
but the missing piece of that is what you just mentioned, the permission to spend the money. And I think the powerful part about where the clarity statement comes into this in an aspect of planning is that if the decision is that we have the resources to be able to age with dignity and pay for care, that's great. And that's the decision we've made is to use our resources. And we've given ourselves like permission when the time comes to actually do it,
Yeah.
right? And so that's really, the how and the what. And I think when it's not connected to that really that why driving it, you get out to the what, which is like a really big check. And then it's not tethered to the why. And it's easy to say, well, I don't like that what.
Yeah.
And which causes all sorts of issues,
Oh yeah.
that the other place, Brian, that I think commonly and really simplistically having this type of statement for your planning helps is when a decision needs to be made, big or small, and you can quantify the how and the what.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still, you can feel it in the conversation. You can feel it in the room that there's still like some angst around it. And of course, we never know exactly what the outcome's going to be. But being able to measure the decision that's being made against what we've said is really important to us, I think is helpful. I'm not going to say it's bulletproof because it's
Right.
really not. Um, and it feels really good when we get the outcomes we want. But I do think it's in an intangible environment, it's something tangibly we can look to where we've drawn a line or placed a flag and we can stand by the decision that's made and the outcomes that then flow from that.
Yeah, and the client has the right to change their mind and to change their priorities too,
Sure.
right? So, um, you know, our job is to help them, you know, deliver the results that they're looking for their families, for themselves, for their spouse, whatever is again important to them. But as we have these conversations with them, um, and they have hesitancy or uncertainty around a decision, it's an opportunity for us to clarify whether that's still important to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
is it important for you to do X? And if it is, then you can accomplish it. But if your priorities have changed, then certainly we can adjust that why so that we can focus on it. Maybe it's they've gotten to a point in their life where creating new memories is not as important, and it's more about relishing the memories that they've already created, and legacy is now more important to them. Um, so the why, the why that we are helping them create around their clarity statement will change over time.
Mhm.
It's a living document that will be different 15 or 20 years from now than it is today. Um, and for us to give it that room to breathe and
Mhm.
for it to change over time as we're helping them, you know, deliver on deliver on what they want to accomplish, in terms of their priorities through that clarity statement, I think is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, I don't know how the CFP board is going to feel exactly when I say what I say, but if I had to if I only got one thing from all the training I did around becoming a certified financial planner, um, and the studying and the board exam. And I've said this in the past. I think clearly it was the idea that was deposited, um, you know, into me that what we do as a CFP, um, is we solve for the client's number one goal, their most important goal. And the way it was stated to me was you solve for that client's number one goal, not what you think their goal should be, or how you think their goal should be better, right? Or a goal of your own, but what the client has, at a fiduciary level asked you to plan for, right? And sometimes that planning looks really great, and sometimes that planning has some things that we need to discuss. But I think really being true to the idea of at its core, when we're looking at clients' lives, not case studies,
Sure.
it's really important. And that's part of where this whole idea of um, this clarity statement came out of is how do we create that for a client in a way that it's been articulated, that it's been written down, that to your point, that it can evolve maybe as goals get accomplished and priorities seem to shift, right? Over time, I would say that my experience is that generally there's large anchors in those priorities, but like the tint on the sunglass lens, maybe, it
Mm-hmm.
changes over time, like how we view those things. So I mean, for most clients, it's their family, right? It's their occupation or maybe their lack thereof, and that's different for each client. Their hobbies, the things, their passions and so forth. And those obviously those change, I
Yeah.
mean, and some of them maybe are with a little bit of lament and sorrow, like, that you can't do certain things like hiking, or maybe, walking 18 holes of the golf course is sometimes in the heat becomes something where you like that, there's certain physical, but so maybe the travel evolves, but travel is still important. Maybe it's the time with the family, and maybe that evolves, like, and so anyway, not to belabor the point, but I do think that at its core, the CFP, what they all those years ago when I took my board exam were impressing upon us still rings true and rings very true, I believe, in the process we've put together. Um,
Well,
so, Brian, maybe in closing here, if you have any um, last kind of thoughts on the clarity builder, um, the process, who maybe who would benefit from it, right? Or something else. I don't know. I mean, whatever you want, or something else. And then in closing, I'd like to share a couple of things with our listeners before we sign off.
Yeah. Well, just just to kind of clarify, the clarity statement is an important part of the process. We believe it's a cornerstone of the foundation of the financial planning we do. But I'm not trying to say that all of the what's and how's aren't
Yeah,
important. And they're almost like table stakes. Like
yeah,
it's expected that we're going to be able to work with our clients to help them reduce risk and maximize return, that we're going to be able to help them understand the tax implications of the financial decisions that they make. Um, but when we can help them align all of those what's and how's with the why,
hmm
that's what really excites me. And I know it excites you as well, Derek, to be able to help people live, live with purpose, and to have impact in their lives, through their financial planning. So, yeah,
yeah,
I'm, like I said, super excited about what we're doing in this mini series of podcast episodes that we're going to be hosting as we kind of lay out other aspects of the financial planning that we do with clients.
yeah.
Looking to continue this conversation and excited to grow the audience.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I do and not to jump the rails and take us down like another, but I do love what you just shared that the hows and the whats are really important, right? And that not to misunderstand that we're saying, oh, well, geez, these are like ancillary parts of like they're really important.
Sure.
And I think that you can have to you can have all the right ingredients for, let's say, a vacation or a trip and get yourself just absolutely to the wrong place, without having a better idea of like where you're going and why you're going there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so, I think that what we're trying to do is make sure we're solid on the direction. We have that guiding star or those guardrails or whatever, and we need the hows and the whats, right? And that's powerful, I think, in what we do because once we've created the statement, it's the full. We're using that. What is then the how? And then what is the what? And then how does that come alive in the actual financial plan? Um, so anyway, without taking us way down another tangent here or deeper into this, you just mentioned it. We're gonna be working on a mini series where we're working through each step in our financial planning process as a way to really relaunch the Clarity Cast, for our listeners. And so we hope that you'll tune in and that you'll tell your friends and family about it. And we thank you for listening to us today. And have a blessed week ahead. And we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
See you, Brian.
Take care.